Everybody's snoozing. Hope on gas. It's that's why they things that cost more.
Yeah.
Started dating times perfect. That's it, Frank.
Great. What about you?
Good. Almost done.
Almost.
15 minutes.
A little chilly today to be here.
I was out there all day. I'm ready for bed.
I'm sure. Nothing quite like working in the cold.
Oh, boy. Working in the cold, getting home.
That's my question.
You are, not me.
Because you don't work in the cold.
That's right. That's exactly right. I stay out of the cold. If at all possible. I might play around and golf. That's about it.
Here we go.
You got it. Oh, you got it.
Please stand for a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Borough of Seabright, in compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act, has provided the adequate notice of the time, date, and location of this meeting to the Asbury Park Press, filed notice on the Borough, with the Borough Clerk, and posted notice on the Borough office and the bulletin board. And I'm seeing this list. Yeah, I'm right there. I know. I'm just not seeing very good things on the Borough website. Welcome, everybody. Sorry about that. We have a roll call, please.
Sure. Councilman Bieber.
Here.
Ms. Bills.
Here.
Mr. Cashmore.
Yeah.
Chairman Cunningham.
Here.
Mr. Julio.
Here.
Vice Chairman DeSeo.
That's it.
Mayor Kelly. Mr. Lawrence.
Here.
Mr. Lexstein.
Here.
Mr. Schwartz is absent. Mr. Zelina.
Yes. Or present, I should say.
Thank you. On to the resolution for Woody's Ocean Island Properties.
I'll move the resolution, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Bieber.
Yes.
Ms. Bills. Yes. Chairman Cunningham.
Here. Yes.
Vice Chairman DeSeo.
Yes.
Mr. Lexstein.
Yes.
And Mr. Zelina.
Yes.
Okay, on to the administrative approval for the break discussion.
This is an application represented by council for administrative approval. I just would remind Councilman Bieber, this one, the underlying was a use variance. So on this one, the other one will be fine. On this one, we need to step down.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to step away from this just because I recently joined the engineering firm that represented this.
Understood.
Let the record reflect Councilman Bieber and board member Zelina has stepped down. We have seven available to participate in the vote.
Thank you. Hi, good evening, Mr. Chairman and fellow board members. My name is Matt Dolan. I'm an attorney from the law firm of Minor and Landis up in Newark, New Jersey. although I look down this way. I represent the applicant on this application. This is an application for a minor amendment and administrative approval to a site plan that was previously approved by this board back in February of 2021. We've submitted to the board a revised site plan that shows the proposed amendments, as well as certain exhibits that more, I guess, go into further detail with respect to those amendments for the benefit of the board. As it relates to the proposed application itself and what the applicant is seeking here, the nature of the revisions are minor. The nature of the revisions consist of, number one, a removal of streetlights on River Avenue. And just to back up, as you're all aware, this is the project that's directly across the street. I'm sure some of you were involved on the initial application. It's a condominium complex that's across the street on Ocean Avenue. So as it relates to the proposed revisions include a removal of streetlights, the requirement to install streetlights, and instead the applicant is proposing to put wall sconces on the building on River Avenue. And the reasoning for that, the reason for the proposal to put on the wall sconces is due to the limited access and the width of the sidewalk on River Avenue. It doesn't really make sense to put big streetlights there, and wall sconces are going to serve the same purpose. Additionally, the applicant is proposing to remove street or sidewalk planters that were originally proposed under the initial site plan as approved. For a similar reason, it impedes ADA access, and ultimately during the course of the construction, it came to be that it doesn't really seem to make sense. The third request by the applicant is to remove the requirement for underground utilities coming into the building itself. And the reason being for that is that, number one, there's overhead utilities all up and down River Avenue, including the adjacent property and the property across the street. JCP&L has advised that it would be easier for JCP&L to run the line across the street than to take the time to dig up the street, shut down the road, simply to pull it from the pole and run it just that short distance across the street. Additionally, it doesn't seem as if it makes sense or may be possible to install the underground utilities there due to the height of the water table and the delays that are going to be associated with figuring that out with JCP&L. So in that regard, I have a representative from the applicant here with me tonight, a senior project manager, Mr. Kevin Higgins, who's to my right. And if the board has questions or would like Mr. Higgins to further testify to the proposed changes, Mr. Higgins is well aware of everything going on with the project and has been intimately involved with the construction process. And I'm sure he could answer any questions that the board may have.
I believe Mr. Hoder sent a report on this. Everybody should have gotten it, I believe. Yeah. Okay. If anybody didn't, you can ask Mr. Higgins.
Why don't we swear Mr. Higgins in just in case we have any questions. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you are giving here tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last for the record.
Kevin Higgins, Higgins.
You're the project manager on this project?
Correct.
I have no questions. I did visit the site. I don't know anyone else did.
I have one question.
Okay, please go ahead.
The lights the wall sconces that you propose putting on the side of the building, have they been submitted to the engineer for review as to the amount of light they'll put off or project, things of that type? Do you have an approved light fixture?
Kevin, I don't mean to cut you off, but have the lights been approved or sent over to the borough engineer, the drawings? Yeah.
All I have is the cut sheet sent over to him as part of the exhibit packet.
Mr. Cashmore, in the exhibit packet that we sent, there's a document with the lights themselves that they're proposing, and that has been sent to Mr. Hoder, and he's reviewed that in connection with his review letter.
Okay, I'm not seeing where he's saying that, so I'd just like to have noted that lighting is to be approved by the borough engineer.
I'd like to answer that, but it's set up on the photo cell.
Excuse me?
It'd be set up with a photo cell, so it goes on with dark, goes off with light.
I don't think there's a.
Yeah, it's not an issue.
If I could just piggyback on the piggyback. When I look at this design, and I'm all in favor of Ball Scouts. I think it's the right move. I think it's a great idea. My concern a little bit is light going up. The idea is to light the sidewalk for people walking up and down the sidewalk. And I think we need to be sensitive to the amount of light that filters up. And this light looks like, it's hard to tell for sure, but looks like you would be lighting up as well. And I wonder if you'd be willing to look at another design or maybe a slight variation on this design which prevents the light from elevating into the, people who live across the street from there and up above the restaurants. I think it'd be valuable to keep the light low.
Agreed. Yeah, we'd be open to any suggestion or any type of light. It's really just the street light that we're trying to get away from for ADA purposes.
Again, I agree. I think the sconce is the right idea. It's just what it looks like and where it lights is what's important.
The original design, there's just no room for it on sidewalks.
Correct.
They would have to put it in the middle of the sidewalk, not the middle, but on the side of the sidewalk.
No, I think we all agree. I think everybody agrees with it.
Yeah, and you don't want it going up, I don't want it bothering buildings on the side, or being like a beacon there. We've had this happen before.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
that's why there's as much attention being paid to the lights. So Dave knows what the ordinance, Dave already not here, so Frank, I'm not sure if he's gonna know about the keeping it from going up. I don't know if I can reach out to him or not, but
Yeah, we could do that.
the light fixture approved by Dave, I would think would satisfy everyone.
We would have no issue with that.
Okay.
And that the light going up may not be in our code. So you can mention it to them, Frank, you can mention it to them.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think the applicant has any issue with whatever type of light the board wants to see inside the building. And we could leave that to the,
Well, we don't decide the light.
yeah,
We just, tell you what we don't want to do.
right.
And you know what you have to do, so just find something that fits all of those. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay.
I have one other question that it relates to the trees. I totally get it, that putting trees in that really narrow little sidewalk would be, they're probably not going to survive particularly long. But I also noticed that there is really no other green amenities on the site. And, downtown, we all struggle with getting enough of that. We spent a significant amount of money on streetscape that brought in a lot of planting. Would you be okay with taking the money allocated for that and spending it somewhere else in downtown to provide some? I'm not going to suggest a tree necessarily, because trees don't survive well in this environment, but some other landscape.
Oh, I've noticed that around the town that you guys have these metal planters around it. I speaking for Kenny, without him being here, I don't think that would be an issue for us to supply a couple of those in lieu of the street trees.
Right.
I think that would look nice because that whole street has the metal planters.
Yeah.
And we can provide you with information on what those are. Actually, somebody owes us one because one was destroyed in the early phases of your construction. So
that should have been paid for. So that
I think
we'll take care of it.
I think we did get the that. Okay.
And Elizabeth, I was thinking about you when I read that. Because I know,
I'm advocate for trees.
I'm glad to see you're here and Frank addressed it as well.
I noticed David's letter that he wrote that he has been in constant contact with them. And so I'm sure that he has no problems with the lights. And he wrote, I have no objections. He said,
Oh, we did, yeah.
has been providing construction inspection since the start of construction. construction, so I think that's fine.
What's like to have them approve the picture?
Just the design. Right?
Any other questions from the board? Is there anyone in the public that has a question about the testimony or statement? If not, public portion is now closed.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the administrative changes.
Second?
No, second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Hills?
Yes.
Mr. Cashmore?
Yes.
Chairman Cunningham?
Yes.
Mr. Julio?
Yes.
Vice Chairman DeSeo?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Mr. Lexstein?
Yes.
And I'll give Mr. Holder a email tomorrow morning, detailing the specifics of what we talked about here tonight, so that he knows, you know, what's subject to his review and what the conversations were, and that so he can continue to move this along quickly, you know, in advance of the next meeting with a formal resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks for coming in.
I have one other question. We did talk about if the application is approved tonight, possibly having a resolution issued tonight, but I guess that's not possible.
With these changes, but that's why I'll give it to him in an email so that
He'll be able to-
moving forward on these things, wouldn't have to wait for the formal resolution at next month's meeting.
Okay.
I think the nature of these, they can handle in-house, knowing that it was approved and what these specific discussions.
Okay, that was our concern, because you had a concern about the borough issuing a cutting card for purposes of the utilities. We need that to be issued so JCP&L can run the utilities so that we can turn on the electric and get the sprinklers going and ensure that there's no issues with the pipes from freezing and whatnot. So hopefully we'll be able to have the borough move forward with that in the interim prior to the actual resolution. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
On to the David Meyer, 24 Church Street, has been asked to carry because the professionals could not make this evening's meeting. Any discussion on this?
What date are we looking at?
January 23rd.
January 23rd.
Is that without notice?
To carry without notice.
Make a motion to carry the application to the January 23rd meeting without further notice.
Second?
Second. Councilman Bieber?
Yes.
Ms. Hills? Yes. Mr. Cashmore? Chairman Cunningham?
Yes.
Mr. Julio? Yes. Vice Chairman DeSeo? Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Mr. Lexstein?
Yes.
Mr. Zelina?
Candy, that you call, I heard you call my name.
She did.
I call. That was the
I heard you.
Okay.
I heard you. And thank you for that. On to carried from August 22nd, Lindsay DeCero. Welcome back. Nice to see everybody.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Rick Bronski on behalf of the applicant, Mrs. DeCero. As the chair indicated, we're here on a continued hearing for Lindsay's home located at 27 Center Street. The application before you this evening seeks both variance relief to permit certain expansion renovations to the existing home. Lindsay had purchased the property in December of 2020, resides there with her daughter. The structure is in need of upgrading, renovation, over 100 years old. And it's an existing mother-daughter, if you will, and that's what's proposed to remain. There are a couple of variances associated with the application, primarily existing conditions. There is a height variance associated with the application. I have with me this evening the project architect, Tony Condouris, who can walk the board through the plans that had some slight revisions, right, since they were here last.
Does the height variance also include three-story construction?
Yes, yes it does. And I have also with me Andy Manu, professional planner, to speak to the variances. Okay? So, unless the board has any questions.
I just want,
Yeah.
for the sake of the record, you're abandoning the request for a two-family home. Okay. And I had asked for the last meeting, if the board approved the application, please put in the restriction, make it clear that this is not a two-family home, so that you can clear that up, because I know there's a lot of questions about walking in here. I don't want people who, when we're all dead, or we're retired, that it becomes a question. And we're sitting here trying to research it, so I think a deed restriction would just make it very clear that we all understand this is not a two-family home. And if you ever want to come back and make it a two-family home, you'll listen to ask for relief from that condition.
Right. I mean, look, deed restriction seems a bit aggressive just because it becomes a title issue. I mean, now we'll have a resolution.
It doesn't make it a title issue.
Right.
It just says that they recognize this is not a two-family home. She's not going to have any, the only problem she's ever going to have trying to sell it is if she tries to sell it as a two-family home.
Understood. That's understood. That's understood.
So I would feel most comfortable with that.
Everything is done seems to have dealt with that problem already.
Exactly.
For notice purposes to future buyers.
Right.
Because quite frankly, most of the people at a closing don't come and check the resolutions.
Right.
And then they get surprised later. If it pops up on the title report, everybody knows, there's no question about it.
It's just the question walking into this hearing,
No, I understand.
which caused this application to stall for months, over 3 months.
Right.
But we were trying to find out, my understanding, whether or not there was any history of it being a two-family. So if we're conceding it's not a two-family, just report it and be done with it.
Yeah. I mean, do we have to then, I don't want to go down the slippery slope. Is there confusion as to what it can be properly be used, right, as a mother-daughter? Do we have to define what a mother-daughter is?
Mother-daughter, if you can recognize it, if you want to record the resolution, you record the resolution.
Maybe we record the resolution as part of
It doesn't make a difference to me.
something like that.
Yeah.
That was my only concern.
Okay, so to me it's the same thing. So you'll agree to record the resolution?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That makes me happy.
Always looking to make it.
Thank you.
All right. If we can have Mr. Condora step forward, I wasn't here, but he was probably sworn last time. Should we have him re-sworn?
Let's get him to run around again.
Yeah, please read, I don't think he was one at the first one.
Okay.
Unless my notes are wrong.
Gotcha.
Do you swear the testimony you are to give here tonight shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And please state your name and spell your last for the record.
Anthony Condouris, Condouris.
Okay.
And he's testified before this board many times before.
Yes.
Yes.
Without any objection from board members. Welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, Tony, if you would, referring to the plans and for the record, you just put the date of the plan on the record so we all have the latest
October
version.
7th, 23.
October 7th, 23. Okay. All right, if you could walk the board through referring, now should we mark that?
Yes, I will mark that because that was not in evidence of the first hearing. These are the revised plans.
Yes.
Yes.
A1?
A1, yes.
Okay. 10/7/23. All right, Tony, if you would, just referring to A1, just walk the board through the property as it exists today and then what's proposed as part of the application.
Sure. Okay, so if you look on the cover sheet, you'll see in the lower left corner there's the site plan. And we are asking for a couple of variances, which I'll go through. First variance you'll see on the chart here is a front setback variance. The house is already at 3.9 feet, and it's not changing. That's the existing front setback. We're simply just extending the house slightly up in the front yard. I believe we have a documentation of the average front setback that was provided by Stockton and Associates, who is now a different name, but they determined it to be, the prevailing front setback is 6.5 feet. We're at 3.8. But again, that's not changing, we're just building on top of the existing footprint of the house. In fact, for the most part, we are not exceeding the footprint of the house, other than extending the existing stairway, which currently is on the east side of the house. It already extends about 3/4 of the way to the back of the house. We're just adding another set of stairs that goes down the back. Those stairs do encroach into the setback about a foot, but they're existing, other than the part that we're extending out toward the back.
And what's the purpose for the extension of the rear stairs there?
To be able to walk to the backyard from the main floor of the house.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're adding, when the applicant initially came to me, we were just going to do a third floor addition. But after looking at the house and the condition of the actual second floor, there's various things about it that make it very difficult to renovate. There's different floor levels. Toward the front of the house, there must have been a porch at one time, and they just enclosed it, so there's a step down and it sort of slopes. And then there's other parts of the second floor that step up. They probably did it for plumbing. So it's a bit of a nightmare to try to renovate it. So what we're proposing to do is add another layer of floor framing, some open web trusses that can span the entire width of the building, and then construct a renovated second floor on top of that. Again, not changing the footprint of the house, but that is one of the things that's contributing to the need for a height variance. You're asking for an extra foot of height. And if you go to page 2 here. So currently, there are 2 ways to get into both apartments. That will remain, and the first floor actually is to remain intact. The second floor is where we're seeing changes, because again, it wasn't practical to try to renovate the current second floor, so it's actually a new second floor, and that's what contains the main living area. So the mother-daughter apartment, we'll call it, is on the first floor. The owner's apartment is on the second floor. And that has access to the half-story that we created, and I'm going to call it a half-story for a second. But we have the third floor finished attic, which is part of the second floor apartment. And the reason it does meet the criteria of a half-story based on square footage, but it does not meet the criteria of a half-story from a definition standpoint, because the side walls of these dormers are above 2 feet, and the ordinance says that a half-story, that at least 2 opposite walls have the maximum of a 2-foot height. This does not comply with that, so that's why it's actually a third story.
And what does the ordinance say about square footage in terms of?
1/3 of the floor below, which we do comply with.
Okay.
And you can see here, if you look at the side elevation, the bulk of that attic addition is actually toward the back of the house. So the front of the house actually complies with it. And if you look at photos of the property, which I think Andrew will have, you'll see that the front of the house looks pretty similar to the way it looks now. It's just it's not going to look too much different, other than it's going to have a railing on the top for the balcony.
And then the details on that side setback?
Yes, so on the east side, the setback is 5.9 feet to the building. So the building itself more than complies with the side setbacks.
Which is a 3-foot requirement.
It's a 3-foot requirement, we have 5.9.
Okay.
Now there's stairs there today that exist, they are slightly encroaching into the setback, but the building itself is almost 6 feet away from the property line.
Okay.
On the west side, it's an existing condition, and we're 1.4 feet away from the property line. That's not going to change, although we are extending it vertically.
Okay, so it's the front setback, we've got the side setback, we're not getting any closer.
Right.
On either side.
Correct.
The height, we do exceed by, what is it, we're at 39.2 proposed, where 38 is permitted.
Correct.
The height of the building, you said that is being driven to a large extent by trying to correct that.
Yes.
Poor condition.
Correct.
Okay.
And I believe at the last meeting, the issue about parking came into question. If you look on the cover sheet, I have a diagram of the ground enclosure. And this is a very rare thing to see, right, but you actually can fit 4 cars in that lower level.
Yeah, that was something that Dave Hoder had asked a question about, and that's why we looked at it.
Right. The building is 40, on the outside it's 46 feet long, so that's more than, 46 feet deep, I should say. So that's more than enough to fit 10 cars.
Questions for Tony?
I just have a question on the rear yard setback.
Yep.
On your zoning data sheet on the plan shows that you're maintaining your requirements 15, as we know, you're maintaining 20.7. But that's not correct with the deck. The deck
You're right. Now the deck is existing. Yes, that is that's true.
So you need a variance for rear yard setback too.
Yes, it's an existing condition that we're maintaining. It's about 11 feet.
So you need to add that to the record.
Yes. Is that what?
It scales to 11 feet. Yeah, unfortunately, I added to the building, didn't have it to the deck. The deck actually is 11 feet from the rear property.
Where 15 is required.
Yes.
Nothing being proposed with respect to that deck.
Well, actually, it is going to have a roof put on it.
Okay.
So then that will be extended vertically.
Gotcha.
One thing to note is the house currently has solar panels on it, and she has to literally take them off and reinstall them. And so we're looking for opportunities to
Maintain it.
yeah,
Reinstall.
right.
Any other questions for Mr. Doris?
Anyone else? Sure. Board members?
So the stairs that go outside, some go to the front and go to the back.
Right.
That's only coming from the second, what is that?
That's correct. It's only coming from the
From one door or two different doors?
two different doors. This door gives you access to the next floor up because there's a stairway.
So it's kind of like the second floor or the second apartment or whatever, that's their way to get outside.
That's
And the
correct.
other way is really to get to outside the other way.
Right, yeah, they both, I don't want to call them apartments.
I know.
Both floors
Yeah,
share,
let's be clear that this is
Yeah, so-
single family home.
yeah, both floors have access to this
Well,
deck,
that's kind of my question.
but one has an internal stairway.
Okay, so how do I get to the second, to the mother or the daughter part? I don't know what's going on. The second floor.
So you walk up to this walkway on the exterior, and there's a door on the side of the house. And you go, once you get in, there's an internal set of stairs. But you can also get into the first, there's a door also leading into the first floor as well. From the outside entrance. Yeah.
And how about from the garage?
There's nothing.
Nothing from the garage.
Nothing. So, the outside, get in the garage.
Yeah, you have, yes.
Or is it a port, the gas?
No, it's enclosed.
Okay, so if I'm on the first floor, can I just walk through a door to get to the second floor?
Yes, you can. Right
I
over.
remember there was a door existing.
Yes. It's it's actually in this bedroom right there. So they're connected.
Okay.
Yes, it's all connected.
Then they're still going.
Excuse me?
They're still going.
They're still going to be, yes. So,
Are the dotted lines what you intend to build?
Which, yeah, that's a little confusing. Are we talking about on this first floor plan?
Yes.
That's actually, I don't know why that's on there. That's actually the old second floor kind of superimposed on top of this. That really shouldn't be there.
Okay, because that's kind of confusing.
Yeah, I know. And I looked at it today, and somebody must have turned that layer on the computer and it appeared, so I apologize for that.
So from the existing foyer, if you come up those outside stairs and walk into the existing foyer, you walk into bedroom to access that first floor?
You would, yes.
The first floor, you walk into the existing family room kitchen.
Well, there's two
ways.
Yeah, it's not the only way in. So the main way to get into the first floor is to go up the front steps and make a left at the top.
And right at that first entrance. And the second entrance
Is really designed for the next floor up.
for the next floor
But
up.
you can get into the other.
So whoever's sleeping in the second bedroom, that's a good way to sneak out. Or in. Or in. Not that I'm making any suggestions.
How do we get to
Put a
the
camera in there might be a good idea.
How do we get to the third floor?
There's another completely different set of stairs here that goes up to the third floor.
And
Inside of the,
And can I, if I'm on the first floor, can I get to that third floor?
yes, you can. If you go through this door that we were just talking about, you can go up into the next apartment and walk again into the third floor.
But it's all interior.
It's all interior.
Nothing you're concerned, right? That's all interior.
It's all for brothers and daughters.
So Tony, you can submit a revised plan which will remove those, the dash lines and dash lines.
Yes, I will.
And before Steve asks, put your air conditioning somewhere that's not the setback.
So there's definitely room in the back here.
Yeah, just put on the plan, but you have.
Okay, sure.
Anyone else on the board with a question?
I guess just one question. Can you go back to the last one?
The floor plans?
Yeah. If that bedroom door is locked and we're talking about, the units are fully separated at that point, right?
Yes, if you lock that door, somebody would not be able to get in, but if it's a family member, hopefully.
And through the maze of the stairs, they're fully separated from each other. They're not connected any other way.
The first and second floor?
The first living floor to anything above it. My reading is if you lock that
Other
bedroom
than
door,
that, other than going through this door, there's no other.
they're completely separated at that point once that door is locked or closed.
Yes,
There's no other way,
there is no other.
unimpeded way through the building to get from one to the other.
Correct.
Anyone else?
I had one question on the ground level parking. There's no support posts or anything that would impede the ability to park the vehicles?
Yeah, there's pilasters here with beams going across.
Is there anyone else on the board? And we open to the public. Is there anyone in the public that has a question about his testimony? Sir, please state your name for the record.
John Tager, 25 Center Street. John Tager, T-A-G-U-E-R, 25 Center Street. And I am the neighbor to the immediate east of the property in question, 27.
All right, you don't need to be sworn in. Not yet, because right now this is only questions of Mr. Condor's. Later, when we open it to the public for your comments, then you'll be sworn in, you'll testify about whatever you want to tell us. But right now, questions.
The questions I will have, obviously, will most likely need to be answered by the architect.
Okay.
So thank you.
No, wait, okay.
This is the art.
Wait a minute, this is the architect.
I'm sorry?
This is the
I
architect.
certainly am aware of that.
Okay, do you have questions for him specifically, or do you want to testify later?
Testify, I will make my statements. those statements will probably result in either the board or me questioning the architect. So if you want me to go in reverse order, I can do that. I can ask the architect directly.
That's exactly what we're
Yeah, because now's the time to answer those questions.
Well, he just had his testimony.
Let me do this.
We like to give the public a chance to question anything they didn't understand or they do understand of the testimony.
So first, I'd like to thank Lance very much for making a personal visit to the property. I don't know if any of the board members had an opportunity to do that, but thank you very much, Chairman.
I did.
I would also like to give these, and I'll give a copy to the architect so he knows what we're referring to. I've taken many pictures, but I don't want to belabor the board with time. So Candace, if you could take these and distribute them among there's 7, actually now there's 6. There were 6 sets, figure 1, figure 2.
Yeah,
I have a set.
provide one to Mr. Brodsky so he can see it.
I choose the 2.
Did you about the questions that you have?
Yes, this is going to go to my friend the architect, Anthony.
Just for purposes of the record, I'm going to mark the one photo that has an indicator of figure number 1. I'm going to mark that as A1.
We'll share this one.
And the photo that shows the roof and the deck that has a notation figure number 2. I'm going to mark it O2 for the record.
I want to quickly bring something up that I probably shouldn't say because I didn't say it before. Just want to make it clear to the board that right now the house is kind of stepped in. The first floor is the width of the entire foundation. The second floor is actually in about 5 feet. We are proposing to square it off. I just want to make sure everybody knew that. I don't know if it's clear on the plans. So, in other words,
Adding some volume.
that's correct. Because right now it steps in here. I didn't bring that up before. I just want to make sure it's you guys. But that part complies with the setbacks. Side setback.
Yeah. May I address you as Anthony?
That's fine.
You may address me as John.
Okay.
So, I am here to express my opposition to the current plans as they appear. It's posted on the Seabright website, which Secretary Mitchell, I assume...
We're asking questions right now?
No, I want to make sure I'm addressing the right plans. Those plans that he's showing tonight are the most recently posted on the Seabright website.
October 7, I believe?
Yes. Thank you very much for posting them, very helpful. Okay, so there are 3 major issues I want to address with Anthony. The first one is, have you fully complied, and I'll give you the details, but have you fully complied with the Seabright building and zoning codes?
No, we're asking for variances.
Okay. There are some things that I don't think are clear. I know some that have been addressed, but there are some things that weren't addressed. So I'm going to get into those in a minute. The other thing is, have you addressed the International Residential Code, otherwise known as the IRC New Jersey edition? Have you looked at that? Do you understand it? Have you addressed it?
I do understand it, but most of that stuff we do address when we're actually doing the construction plans rather than zoning approval.
Okay.
But we always have it.
But you feel at this moment you have fully addressed the IRC Residential Code edition? That you fully, at this point?
At this point, yes.
You understand?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and the third part, have you given any consideration to neighbors in terms of things like shadow, ability to see out of your windows, that type of thing? Have you given any consideration to those factors in this plan?
I did
thought about how it will impact the neighbors to the east and west.
I did not specifically look into that, but I am aware of the fact that the house is very compliant. It's more than compliant on the building itself, not the stairs. On the east side, it's almost 6 feet away from the property line, so I didn't see it as an issue there.
Okay. So the reason for the pictures is it was mentioned that the house, if I'm not incorrect, I'm not quoting you wrong, the house is over 100 years old. Is that the statement that was made?
At this meeting?
I think I heard that statement possibly. Is this gentleman your attorney?
Yes.
I believe the attorney made that statement that the house is over 100 years old.
I don't recall hearing that.
I saw a construction in 1922.
I'm not going to debate the actual year, whether it's 80, 90, or 100 years, but It was built quite a long time ago. Is that sufficient to say? Okay. What I think you neglected to say was the house was recently renovated, significantly renovated, when Mr. Higgins bought the house, which was after Sandy. So the house went through tremendous renovations.
Let's keep the questions. You're leading into testimony.
That was the question. The question was, you mentioned that it was 100 years old, but you did not mention that the house went through significant renovation. The question is, are you aware that the house went through significant and substantial, not only elevation, but renovations?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
So we're not taking a house 100 years old and trying to upgrade it to a livable house. Would that be a good assumption? You're not taking a house that's 100 years old and making renovations to make it modern. It already went through.
It definitely already went through renovation.
Considerable renovation.
It's in good shape, yes.
And part of the renovation was to add that staircase. The part of the staircase that's on the south side.
There's no staircase on the south
That
side.
did not exist.
There's no staircase.
Hold on.
So now,
What staircase is on the south side?
Hold on. This is a simple process. You're going to ask the question. You're going to allow the witness the opportunity and the time to answer the question.
I apologize.
That's okay.
I apologize.
If he knows the answer, he'll give you the answer. If he doesn't know, he'll tell us he doesn't know the answer, but you have to give him the chance to actually
So
answer.
were you aware that the staircase on the right side of your rendering, the staircase on the east side of the house,
Yes.
the portion facing the south was existing? You can see it right there.
I had an older survey that didn't show any staircase, and I believe that was prior to the renovation. Our new survey shows staircase just on the east side.
So the east side, the portion that's facing south, was done during the renovation. You were aware that?
Yeah, I knew the staircase was new because it's not on the old survey. Yeah.
Okay. So, now I'll ask the question, further question. So, the side lot setback required is to be 3 feet from the building line. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, that is correct, yes.
The combined side lots are, and you mentioned it during tonight's presentation, 1.4 feet on the western side, rear. I believe you mentioned that tonight.
Yes.
Okay.
1.4 at the rear. All right. 1.9 at the front.
Okay. Therefore, it leaves a minimum of 4.6 feet that you need to maintain on the eastern side. Okay? You got 1.4 on the left. That leaves you with, and again, this is feet, not inches. 4.6 feet is what's remaining on the eastern side. That's how much room you have to work between the property line and the proposed construction.
Right, and we have 5.9.
You agree with that?
I'm not sure if I quite understand what you're saying, but I know we have 5.9 just on the east side alone.
Okay. However, where did you measure that from?
That's from the survey. That's from the corner. That's from the corner of the building.
What point on the eastern side of the house?
According to the survey, it's the front corner.
Where did they measure from?
The front corner of the building, not the steps, the actual building itself. So the corner of the foundation of the.
So you are aware that the deck is a permanent structure. There is a set of steps.
So you have to let him answer.
There is a set of steps. Let me finish the question, please.
No, I'm fine. Finish the question, then let him answer, and then you ask however many
There is a
questions
set
you
of
want.
steps and a deck existing.
Yes.
There's also an awning over the top of there. The awning is a temporary structure. Do you see that as a temporary structure, the awning?
The existing line?
The lovely green and white awning that's shown on the.
Oh, well, that's going away.
Do you see that as a temporary structure? The awning?
He answered the question.
No, it's a yes or no. I can get an answer.
Can I just make a suggestion?
It's a different.
Just one second. Can we just swear him in? And I think by limiting him to questions, it's just going to go on, and maybe if we swear him in, just tell us what his objection is. Try to deal with it that way.
Yep.
If you would like, I'll try to shorten.
No, my recommendation.
I'm trying to not get.
It is about trying to.
You asked me to ask it in a question.
I know that, John, and that's what I'm trying to get. If we can swear you in, I think.
As a courtesy, we allow the public to ask questions about testimony close to when the testimony took place. And that's the reason we do it that way, so that everybody gets their say, gets the answers. And then at the end, we allow everybody to make a statement. So I think Mark's suggestion is good, to swear you in, because you have started to make testimony throughout your questions, in my opinion.
And that's not a criticism of you, because you don't do this every day. So.
No, I'm just saying.
Before we do that, I just want to make sure that the applicant has no objection to going out of our usual order and taking testimony first as opposed to finishing your.
No.
We're going to get it either way.
No objection.
All right, in that case, we're going to swear you in. If you could please raise your
I
right
mean,
hand.
not in a bad way. I just think-
Do you swear the testimony you already give here tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and you already stated your name and spelled the last for the records, and now the floor is yours to testify before the board and provide your factual testimony as well as any opinions you may have.
But it might help if you just tell us, like, what is your concern? So that.
So my concern is that the architect has perhaps not shown as much detail as he should have, which may lead to other questions regarding whether he's covered all his variances. The second part is I don't believe he has covered the IRC, the International Residential Code, New Jersey, specifically regarding fire code and fire spread.
That's for construction. We are planning and zoning. It has nothing to do with construction. That is the building department. We have no jurisdiction over construction. That's done at the building department level.
Okay, this has to do with the location, not the materials of construction, has to do with location. All right, and the third part was rights of neighbors, very simple thing, shadow, and I know, Mr. David, there was a time when I had my house elevated, and you had expressed a very strong concern for shadow. You actually made me lift my house up, cut my house apart, and move it forward. So I know shadow is important to you, as it's important to me. Okay, you might remember.
Let's stick to the
So anyway, what I'm seeing is that the measurement that they have taken is from the building to the lot line. The stairs and the deck, it's a deck, it's permanent construction. Under the deck is a concrete patio that extends out beyond the deck, okay? When you measure from the appropriate distance, they are not complying with the code, all right? They are less than 3.2 feet away. So they're too close.
It has to be 18 inches off the ground before it becomes part of the setback.
Okay.
If it's ground level, it's acceptable.
The deck is certainly above that.
I already testified that the deck is encroaching into the setback.
Okay.
So we're aware of that.
So let's just get our measurements correct. So the combined side lots, 1.4 west leaves 4.6 east, and the measurement from east is less than 3.2 feet.
To the deck, the existing deck.
To the deck.
Yeah.
To the deck.
Right.
And if you take a look at those pictures, you will see, if I open my kitchen window, I can almost hit that awning with my kitchen window. And part of your plan is to extend the deck all the way to the back of the house, number one. Number two, part of it is to put a permanent roof structure over the deck, where the existing is a temporary structure.
Yeah, that permanent roof.
Okay?
If the question.
If I have a fire, that would be great. I jump out the window and land on the house door. It is that close. I would encourage anybody who really wants to make a learned decision tonight to come visit me at my house. Come inside, look out my window. Lance walked in, and I'm sure Lance, I'm sorry.
I didn't come into your house.
Chairman Cunningham, I said hello to you there. Chairman Cunningham came to the property, and he walked through the alleyway. And I know he did that. And it's very good of him to do that. But the perspective is even better if you come inside the house and you can see what those pictures are. Okay, so that measurement is way off. All right, the international code says the midpoint between two structures, it has to do, it says anyway, the midpoint between our two structures is not enough. It says if it is between 0 to 3 feet, You are not allowed any windows on that side. Okay? I had to remove windows from my house because someone said they were too close to the property line. So I paid a guy to put windows in and paid the same guy to take them out. So it's very important.
Are you referring to where your house is 0.7 feet from the property line?
Okay, so my house,
Just yes or no? I'm just asking.
at the closest point, yes.
It's 0.7 feet.
Yes.
And what about at the furthest point?
I don't think you have to take a look at it.
1.4, does that sound right?
You'd have to take a look at it. I don't know what it
I'm looking at it.
is. Well, then, if that's what it is and that's a good survey,
I just wanted to make sure.
then we have to use that tonight.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure I was looking at the right thing.
Can I just understand, is the new deck getting any closer to his house?
No.
The thing exactly where it is now.
Yes,
Well, let's be clear, because I have a hunch we're not talking about the same deck.
Right. That's what.
When you say the deck, you're talking about, Mr. Condor, I believe, the rear deck.
No, I thought he was referring to the stairway on the side. Which is
I did believe that.
It is partially a deck too, it's not just stairs, it's a deck there too. That deck is currently encroaching on the setbacks.
Does that have a permanent roof structure over it? I didn't gather that.
It does have a 3-foot overhang that we put over, but that 3-foot overhang complies with the setback.
We have, I wasn't sworn in. but-
Sure. Can we have, just so Lindsay can speak?
If you can please raise your right hand, you swear the testimony you already give here tonight shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And please state your name, spell your last for the record, just so it's clear.
Lindsay DeChiro, DeChiaro. And just specifically, I'm sure you know this, but the roof that we put in, the permanent structure, was shortened to not even extend over the deck fully to comply with that.
Right, if you look at the side elevation, excuse me. Right above the stairs here, you can see that, and I actually have a dimension on it. There's an overhang that extends 3 feet off the side of the house there. The stairs and deck are about 4 feet, so we pulled it in to make it comply with the side setback.
Which wouldn't be my preference, but I was keeping that in mind when we were doing this.
Right. And just one quick thing, so we don't keep talking about it. When it comes to fire, I'm aware of the distance to the property line with fire. Anywhere we have a window proposed where it's too close to the property line, we're going to have to do fire windows. We're aware of that. Fire rated windows.
I mean, as Dave said before, we can't give variances to the fire code, the other code you're talking about. We can't give any variances to that. So we could approve something with all those violations. Once the building code gets it, they're going to do what the building code does, and they have to comply with the building code. We have no power over that. So your worries about that, I'm just telling you, this is the wrong place to come to for that, because we can't give variances to those things. Right, Dave?
Yeah, and just to answer that question, no windows are allowed if the house is less than 3 feet, but they're allowed if they're fire-rated windows. They can't be non-fire-rated windows, then they can't have them at all.
And further, not just the window, but the assembly. So if you put a fireproof window in a wooden house, it's not assembly, it doesn't count. So
But again, that's not going to be, that's not up to this board.
Those houses that have to be fire-rated, it's 3 stories, and this is, again, back to the building department, it has nothing to do with us.
So again, I'm going back to, if the deck isn't moving any closer to you,
Okay, so
so what's your objection?
when you look out my window, right now, there's some sunlight and there's a little bit of breathing room. If they are allowed to build that additional floor, and there are some variances to build that additional floor the way they want, they will be building, you see where that roof is?
Yes, right here you're talking about.
There, but below that, you see where that little deck is outside?
Yes.
That little deck is gonna be a wall. And where that roof comes down next to it, that brown area, that's gonna be a wall. And that's what I'm going to see when I look out my window, I'm going to see a wall. And then even closer.
So let me just stop. So you're worried about the sunlight that's coming down out of here now. You're going to lose the sunlight, is that what you're saying?
You're going to lose sunlight from there. You're also going to lose the sunlight coming across the top. In the back of the house, there is a roof drawn somewhere on the plans over the rear deck. There's going to be a roof that goes beyond the house right now. It's going to go, Anthony, if you'd like to show them it.
Well, yeah, I talked about it before. It's the the deck that Dave brought up that didn't have the proper setback, but there's a roof that we're.
But it's not a solid wall, you see through it.
You see through it, that's yes.
Right, but
That's
there's a sun, there's a sun comes down.
That's more of an architectural feature than a necessity, isn't it?
Yeah, well, actually, and it had a lot to do with the solar panels too, believe it or not, which yes, but, yeah.
You could possibly not extend that roof on the top floor.
It's not necessary architecturally.
And have the deck, just have the deck open.
You could.
Would you consider doing that to alleviate the concerns about loss of sunlight?
May I just real quick give the reason for the roof on the back deck, which I would also point out is all the way on the west side of the back of the house. But the reason that the roof was put over the deck is because after a conversation with John, he was worried about the shadow. The original plan had the front of the house going all the way up 39 feet from front to back. And so, keeping that in mind, I thought he was more concerned about the front of the house and the view from his second deck. So I actually reduced the height of the first section of the house. So instead of having like a cathedral ceiling, put in the roof deck instead. So it's actually, I don't think significantly higher than it currently is, right?
Other than, it's a couple feet because we raised up.
Because I was trying to keep that in mind in terms of, the light and the shadow, at least with respect to the front part of it.
But he's not on, John's not on the same, he's on this side.
He's talking about this side.
Right, well, so then the reason that I did the front part, or the reason for the deck or the roof on the deck in the back is because I have solar panels, and with lowering the height in the front, putting the roof deck in instead of taking the roof the whole way up, I had to create some more roof space, so that was the reason for that, is otherwise I'll have to abandon some of my solar panels, because I can't put them on the front of the house now, since that's now lower, if that makes sense.
And that deck sits more to the west side of the house.
Yes. So you can see it.
John, are you on the east side of the house or the west side?
I'm on the east side.
You're on the east side.
So when the sun is setting, it'll be obstructed by that roof.
Right, the roof over the deck is towards the west side of the house. It's not the entire,
I'm on the east side. That roof is
You're on the
on
east side.
So when the sun sets, that roof will obstruct.
Well, when the sun sets, it's low, so it should go right through it.
Actually, when the sun is at that point, if you took the time to go down there, it goes down below the houses across the east. So prior to that, the sun will hit that. But in either case, there'll be a tremendous shadow. Very important point, we talk about the roof deck. The front setback code requires 5 feet. They are at, if I'm not mistaken, 3.8 feet, is that right?
Yes, and that's existing.
Okay. They're also proposing, from what it appears, to build a 2-foot overhang or something in that area all around the perimeter of the house, at least on the front and the sides. So let's see if that's on the plans. I may have misinterpreted.
I think, Tony, that was because
So
of
there is a
the
little
extra
roof coming out.
16 inches, right? So we're trying to solve for the fact that you should go up to level the floors. I think you have to put something there.
Well, we were trying to, otherwise it became a very vertical, and this overhang is not as big as the one on the side. The front overhang comes in.
The house has survived a very long time without a roof added in the front. But needless to say, that brings it down to, let's see, we are 5 feet code, they're 3'8", they're proposing a 2-foot overhang. They have 1 foot 8 inches where they need to have 5. So at a minimum, if they're allowed to do a roof deck, I would like the roof deck to start. There's no reason, because the lower construction is there, that the upper construction has to be in violation.
Well, why does the roof deck bother you? It's on the side of the house. Or am I just
Why does the
confused?
Well, there's a roof deck in the front, but that does not have an overhang on it. The overhang is the next floor down, which was an aesthetic thing to soften the front of the house a little bit. I don't believe the ordinance takes the setbacks to the overhang, so it takes it to the building.
So the wall.
Yeah.
Right. So when those houses were built on Center Street, they all had porches in the front.
Right.
Neighbor to my left has a porch. Neighbors all the way up the street have porches. You look down the street, you can see through the porches. You go to the house next door to 27, it's set way back. The house beyond that, the condos are set way back. You should be able to look all the way down the street. Someone, many years ago, enclosed a porch. So even on my porch, when I look to the right, I'm looking at a wall. Now they're proposing to build a wall closer to me and build a wall up higher with a roof deck sitting over the top of me. So anything up, anything out is blocking. I mean, it's as simple as that. If it was an open air porch, it'd be wonderful. I'm not expecting them to do that. But what I'd like to see done, if they're building up higher, especially a roof deck, that it starts where it should start. And it should start at 5 feet minimum from the line. It should be set back 5 feet, not 1.8 feet.
It's not set back. The roof deck is not set back. The roof deck
No, the roof deck is right up to the edge. I'm asking for it to be set back to comply with the zoning.
Okay, but so you still need a
It's
roof.
not 1.8 feet, it's 3 point.
So yeah, we're short by, we need 1 point, to do what you're saying, we need to set it back 1.1 feet. But you still need a roof over the
What I'm
door.
getting at, if you put that roof in the front, you're at 1.8. Okay, and that's what you will be, I think that's what you will be getting as a variance, if you are allowed to put the roof. That little porch.
No.
So you're not gonna put that on?
Hold on 1 second. Let Mr. Considine clarify this, because you're mixing and matching the 1.8, which is to the overhang, right where he's pointing, but you're talking about stepping back the upper roof deck, but that does not step out the extra 2 feet of that overhang.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah, the top roof deck is flush with the current front of the house. The thing
And
that's,
again, if you could just clarify, what is the distance for the front setback to the front of the house?
3.1, excuse me.
3.8, right?
3.8.
Yeah.
3.8 feet.
3.8.
Which exists today.
That's existing. So the only thing that's coming out any further than what's there now is this overhang that we put on the next level down.
And that comes out, how much?
18 inches.
18 inches. But that's not a setback encroachment.
Well, the ordinance doesn't call it a setback to go to the overhangs.
Okay.
I don't see a need for that overhang. So I don't know why we're putting things on it, because architecture looks pretty. I'm looking to have the deck, if they're gonna do a roof deck, to start in compliance with the code. I'm not looking to allow a variance to start the roof deck further out into the street. There's no reason that new
The
construction.
roof deck is not coming out further to the street.
It's coming out further than the code. Code requires 5. That deck is not 5.
Okay, but you would still need a roof, whatever, if you set that roof deck back, you'd still need a roof in the front of it to cover the living space below. So. The roof deck is actually a roof. So if I were to push it back, there'd be a hole in this roof, right? So you'd have to fill it in with something.
The difference.
Well, I believe they have more testimony, I'm sure you'll have questions about that.
Thank you.
So why don't we move on to anyone else in the public that had a question about his testimony? So let's move along.
I'll just ask a question. I mean, Anthony, is there anything you can do to satisfy his concern about losing light?
If I may, we spent a lot of time already on this plan. After the last meeting, I spoke with John, and he said, I won't object to anything that's in compliance with code, which again, I think the only thing that's really out of conformance on his side of the house is that back section of the house that has to come up, maybe a foot over. We did spend a lot of time on this already, keeping in mind all of the things that he was, objecting to, and keeping in mind that he said as long as it's in compliance, again, on his side, that he wouldn't object. So.
But he is.
He is
So
objecting.
I'm just saying, I'm somewhat sympathetic to the idea of, these houses are very close together, which we all know. I mean, that's to say, the alley and Seabright on those side streets. And I am almost sympathetic to the fact that if he's losing the light, some of the structure coming up, and they need any variances for that, which sounds like you do, if I'm understanding correctly. Is there anything you can do to curtail that and give them a little more visual similarity to what exists today?
He's asking for them to step back the third story, 1 foot 4 inches.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the
1
third
foot
story.
4 inches is insignificant.
I'm not worried about the third story. I think if I understood, and if I misunderstand Dave, I apologize. But, and I very well could be misunderstanding what I'm saying, but I was under the impression we're talking about the other side, on the east side, those 3 porches things.
Right, so
That's-
this, yeah.
That's my understanding of what he's complaining about, that he's looking out his window and he's currently seeing this, but you're going to now see.
Well, this
If I'm misunderstanding, I'm misunderstanding. So tell me I'm misunderstanding. I'm not scared.
I do believe I know what one of the things he was saying is that right now this is a roof because the house is stepped in. That's that last thing that I brought up. We are actually bringing that wall out flush. So now it's a straight wall.
Isn't he on this side?
No.
Oh, he's on this side?
Yeah, he's on this side.
Oh.
And that roof that comes over the stairs is what John is saying.
I apologize. I thought he was speaking about the 3 on that. That's what I thought he was speaking about. I misunderstood.
That was a concern too, I believe, of his. But yeah, but right now I think we're talking about this overhang, I think.
That's what you're talking about?
There's 2 roofs. There's a roof that overhangs the stairs, and then there's a roof that covers the first occupied level. He wants to eliminate the roof that covers the occupied level and build a straight wall up, and then build a permanent structure over the deck. So there's 2 roofs there.
But it's not moving any closer. If I understand now, it's not actually coming any closer to you.
Oh, yes, it is. That second floor is moving
At the top level, because this overhang, this wall is coming this way.
Okay.
That second floor is going right
All right, but the edge is already there.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, so the wall's just gonna be.
And that wall,
The wall's on the house instead of setback.
Right.
the house is 6 feet off the property line, so.
Right, so that
double.
side is still compliant with
I wish we had like color drawings with you, but I know you have.
But that side mark is, what is it, almost 6 feet?
Yeah, it's almost 6 feet, where 3 feet is required, so.
And his house is 0.7 feet from the.
I understand.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Anthony, you said it before, I just want to make sure we're absolutely clear. That east side stairway is not going to stick out any further than the one presently does?
Correct. Yes.
Same dimension?
Same dimension.
I know you said it, I just wanted to confirm.
Most of it's there already.
except that stairwell is going to extend from the center of the house all the way to the back of the house, and the roof will be on top of it. Right now, that deck is not, that staircase does not come down on the north side. That's a new staircase.
Yeah, from here down, that's new, yeah.
And, yeah.
Well, why does that bother you? I don't understand why it bothers you. It's not on the side of your house.
No, that is on the side.
When
I'm completely. Where are you taking these? So.
On the east side.
Okay.
And John's house is the next house.
So that's the view of what I'm looking at. We're looking from his house.
This is John.
Okay.
Now this, up to here, this is already here.
I apparently had a really long day at work.
It's okay.
And then second floor currently sets back.
If I crank open the kitchen window, I'll almost hit the.
It's still 6 feet away from the property line.
But 6 feet away from the property line, 6 feet is required.
No, 3 feet required. So we're more than 3 feet
required,
yeah.
6 feet.
Yeah.
And most of the houses downtown are 3 feet. This is 6 feet.
Yeah.
I apologize.
No.
And the deck in the front on the top floor, that doesn't protrude out.
Other than some trim, it's pretty much straight. When I say trim, I mean just 3/4, whatever it is.
So moving along, you have additional testimony.
I do. I have Mr. Janu just to go through the variances and the testimony. We'll do that real quick.
Maybe this would be helpful, Mr.
Yeah.
This is an aerial photograph of the street.
Well, let's get the sworn in.
All right, please raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear that testimony you already give here tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name and spell your last name.
It's Andrew Janu, Janiw.
And you are a planner that has testified before this board many times.
Many times, Mr. Beckman.
And we welcome you back without objection from our board members.
Okay, and
Thank you.
Andrew, if you would, you want to just for the record, let's get that exhibit marked, right, as A2, and just describe what that is.
So this is an aerial photograph of a Google Earth image. The subject property is outlined in yellow.
as it currently exists. And this really intended to kind of show you how it aligns with the other properties along the street. And correctly to the west, you do have condominiums and the neighbor setback, but as we approach and go eastward, you'll see the homes tend to move forward. And the average, I think, was about 6.5 feet, as was measured by the architect. You do see some maybe 2 or 3 feet via the front. So it's a variety, but generally all the homes are oriented to the front. The gentleman speaking in terms of objectives is this home here, which pretty much occupies the entire lot front to back. I do have some photographs I'd like to share that, as we go through the testimony, I think may be helpful. Should we mark these individually?
Yes. We're up to A3.
Yep.
The aerial was A7.
This is a photograph dated November 17th. Subject property would be the first house to the left, and then we're looking down eastward on Center.
Hey, Steve. Steve.
Take one, pass now.
They're all the same. I go through a lot of this. I was waiting, I'm ready to go.
You're not a sharing kind of guy, are you?
Apparently not.
I was patient.
It's very into my work.
The second one, just to give you a little orientation in terms of how the backyards are marked, because there was some discussion in terms of light air and open space. This is a photograph taken from the backyard of 27 Center looking towards John, and I'm sorry, I don't know your last name, towards his home. The foreground is his yard extending virtually to the back of the
That's
property.
correct. Now I'm on Lance.
That would be good.
Okay.
So this is, just to clarify, this is John's house.
Yes, that's correct.
Next one.
Next one is the rear elevation of our house with the 2 decks. And you can see the little up to the
west side of John's.
That's the west side of John's. And that's the part of his house that approaches 1.7 feet within his property line.
Is this part 1.7?
Correct.
That blocks a lot of sun.
Right. This is our rear elevation. You can see to the left side of that, there's the overhang over the door that currently exists. And this is a view looking down the property line between 27 and 25. See the stair will remain as it's depicted here. And the homes are close together.
Easy,
In all fairness, the additions on this house, the additional floors, will block the sun from the setting sun in the evening, but the house, adjoining your house will block the rising sun from the east. So the only time you leave your house and block the other house is when the sun is straight overhead.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I would argue the only reason there is a view to the west is because he encroaches into the rear yard.
Right, yeah.
There is a view or is none?
The
Essentially, the house extends through the rear yard setback, so.
This board doesn't deal with a lot of views.
Yeah, no, I understand.
We try not to.
Not entitled to a view.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with that, actually. Yeah, absolutely.
Dave's issue wasn't, I don't think he ever said anything that I recall, John, about a view. He suggested shade or a couple of things, not a view.
Can I ask a question about this photograph?
Yes.
Is the footprint or the size of the rear decks going to be consistent with what's shown on this?
Yes. Yes.
So there's just one added to the top, but the actual sizes and location do not vary?
Correct.
Just a roof.
Because that was part of the conversation before on how much that would affect the neighbor's house.
Correct.
It is on the
It's not going to
opposite-
encroach any further.
It is on the opposite side. It's on the west side versus the east.
Correct.
Well, there's not gonna be another deck on top of that, is it?
No, just an overhang.
It's just gonna be a roof. It's
Just a
overhang.
roof, right, correct. And that deck is set back, I believe, 11 feet from the property line.
That's what we figured out.
Yes. So having set the table.
Now we can talk about the variance.
Correct. So we are seeking today, we've added a fifth variance to this. So the first is the front yard setback, where 5 feet is required, 3.8 feet exists and will remain. That's an existing condition. The third floor that will be added is actually going to be set back. I believe the deck over the second floor is set back about 20 feet. That third floor starts about 20 feet behind the existing facade of the home. We are seeking side setback relief, 3 feet is required, 1.4 exists and proposed to remain, and that is, again, to the stairs. The height, 2.5 stories, we're proposing 3 stories, and as Anthony testified, while we meet the area or square footage requirement of a half story, we don't meet the wall height. But part of that's the configuration of that third floor. We thought that it would be better to set it back, not to have it go forward. So the areas there, it could have been configured where it's a long, narrower third floor, or potentially qualify as a half story, but we thought keeping that open area to the front and diminishing kind of the impact of that along the street line was important. So we are seeking that third story. And finally, the overall height, 38 feet is permitted. The home, because it's being raised with that additional floor deck that Anthony spoke about, will be 39.2, so a 1.2 foot deviation over the permitted height. And those are all C variances. The lot is oversized for the district.
You mentioned, Andy, that rear deck issue?
Oh, and I'm sorry, and then setback to the rear deck, 15 is required, 11 is proposed. The lot is oversized for the area, 1,800 square feet is permitted. This lot is 2,252 square feet. It does have a ground level garage that can accommodate 4 houses. And then finally, we are seeking to add that top story in order to not only create livability, but also to rectify some of the, call it the structural issues in terms of how it was renovated. It was renovated. It was very uneven in terms of how the floor was set to accommodate plumbing, settlement to the porch to the front. So it is an issue in terms of just why we need that additional height variance. What we're proposing here is the renovation of this mother and daughter. It's going to meet all the building code. It has to meet the building code standards as it goes in for the permits, and that was a point of discussion. So in terms of, we're really just limited to zoning today. One of the things we have to comply with when we're looking at your variance relief is the master plan. Your master plan talks about keeping the character of the neighborhood intact, the continuity of the character of the neighborhood intact. And when you look at the area and you see what the character of the neighborhood is, it is an older neighborhood. Many of the homes are of that 80 to 100-year-old genre. They're all set forward. They do have porches. Some of the porches have been enclosed along the way, as you can see from the photograph that I circulated. I believe that was A3. But I think what we're doing is keeping in character, keeping in context with the neighborhood, and certainly making it a very attractive addition. Anthony's work is known throughout the community, and he's a very good architect in terms of design. We also, I think, meet the purpose of your master plan of encouraging the coordination of various public and private procedures towards shaping land development with a view of lessening the cost of such development, Here, we're renovating an existing building. We're not building new. We're not proposing anything new. We're not demolishing anything other than trying to work within an existing footprint going up and improving the building. With respect to the municipal land use law, we have to reconcile the variances with the purposes of the municipal land use law, and that's because variances aren't just for the individual homeowner. There has to be a public purpose behind those. And I do believe that we qualify under two of those. The first is to promote the establishment of appropriate population densities and concentrations that contribute to the well-being of persons, neighborhoods, communities, regions, and the preservation of the environment. There was some discussion as to whether this was a two-family or mother and daughter. It is a mother and daughter, will continue to be a mother and daughter. That's what the ordinance permits, and it will be maintained that way. So we are seeking to maintain the balance in terms of the neighborhood and the community with respect to that. And the second point, I believe we work with mimics your master plan of encouraging the coordination of various public and private procedures with the view of lessening the cost of such development. Again, we're renovating an existing structure. We're going straight up within the footprint. We're not doing any new foundation work. And we're not expanding the footprint of this, but we are adding essentially to the lifespan of this home through a reasonable renovation that will solve many of the internal issues of uneven floors and awkward plumbing and the like. So when we look at the standards for bulk relief, these are C variances. There are two types of C variances. There's the C1 or the hardship variance, which means that the variance is a result of an existing conditions. In this case, I believe that we qualify for the C1 for the front yard setback. We have the front yard setback established. Essentially, we're going straight up to there, and we are softening that by stepping back the third floor addition with the deck being set back 20 feet. On the side yard setback, again, that's established. That stair exists. We are trying to create a route to the rear yard without having to come up front and walk all the way around. So it will be an expansion, but that side yard setback exists today and will be locked in essentially. We're not encroaching on it in any way, shape, or form. With respect to the rear yard, that deck exists today. That will continue to exist. There will be a roof over that. However, we're not creating any further encroachment, and that is a result of an existing structure on the property. With respect to the height, with respect to the stories, I said we looked at a couple of different ways. I believe the story, I'll talk about that separately as a C2 standard. But the height in terms of feet, what's really pushing that extra foot and 2 inches or so is the addition of the extra floor trusses that we need to make that floor level and to work through the plumbing and the uneven floor issues. Had we been able to work with the existing kind of floor plates, that would not have been an issue. So the alternative to that would have been a very expensive demolition and refitting as opposed to just framing over. So that does push the height up. Had some discussions with Anthony about that, but I believe we can qualify that under both C1 and C2. Then moving height in terms of the C2 variance, the C2 is what's known as the balance test, or that the benefits outweigh any detriment to that with respect to the height. So we have to show in terms of the positive criteria that the application is specific to a piece of property and conditions on that property. It is that purposes of the municipal land use law are advanced. I read 2 into the record, and that the benefits of the deviation outweigh any detriment. So the benefits to this application in terms of height are that while we are entitled to go to 38 feet, we're seeking 39.2. We are seeking that third story, whereas 2.5 would be permitted. Essentially, we are within an envelope that would be permitted had it been configured differently, meaning had we had that third story, we meet the square foot, come down at a greater slope with 2-foot walls that limited use of that interior space, but it would technically qualify. Essentially, it's a form over function argument here. The addition is pushed back to the back of the property where it's least intrusive from the street. There are full height walls there, however, that doesn't add to the footage. Essentially, that was all an issue of the floor plates. So I think when we looked at balancing how this addition, how that top floor addition was being added to it, we kind of erred towards pushing it back, creating more open area to the front, not making it intrusive to the street, knowing that technically it becomes a third story, but practically it meets the square footage allotment that your ordinance anticipates for a half story.
So I believe it was a good balance, and that the benefits of that are more open space to the front of the house, and just keeping that more open area. With respect to the negative criteria, we have to show that the variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good, and the test is substantial detriment. We're over in terms of height by 1.2 feet. It's a C variance. It's not going to be distinguishable by the eye from the street. Quite frankly, with that being set back, very few people are even going to notice that there's an issue in terms of a 1 foot height differential over what's permitted. With that extra story, again, that's tucked away in the back. It's not a full story in terms of massing. It's only a half story pushed to the back. It's non-intrusive. And when we look at the other homes along the way, you see how they occupy the lots and the size of the homes in the area. I think we're essentially in keeping with content on our lot. We're going straight up, we're not going out, whereas you see some homes have gone out, have gone over, and occupy a significant larger portion of the site. We do meet all our coverage issues in terms of building coverage and lot coverage, so we're not something that's too massive for the lot. We're a proper scale for the lot. Finally, we have to show that we are not a substantial detriment to your zone plan or your ordinances. In this case, it's a mother-daughter use. It's not going to be a multifamily use. We're in keeping with the existing structure that's been there historically. I think the footprint of that structure was mentioned that was established over 100 years ago. We're going straight up. We're not going out. We're not creating any new intrusions. And we are trying to be cognizant of the impact on the neighbors. As Lindsay testified, she did meet with the neighbor. She talked about it. She was comfortable and she satisfied the concerns. We learned tonight weren't, but I do believe that it's not something that's a substantial detriment to the neighbor or to the neighborhood or to the community or to your zone plan. When you look at the nuisances that we typically look at in terms of substantial detriment, what's being proposed today isn't going to create any issues with respect to runoff. It's not creating additional traffic. It's not creating additional noise. It's not creating additional trash. It'll continue to operate the way it was, albeit within a new envelope of a building. So when we look at this, I think we do qualify for C variance relief for all 5 variances that we're requesting. I think it's a good application. I think it's a thoughtful application.
Questions for Mr. Jennings?
Board members, no questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
To you. So there's only one.
Peggy, you can do whatever you want. You're board member.
There's only one laundry?
Existing, there's 2 stackable laundries, so one on the main floor and then one on the next floor up across the kitchen.
What are the first floor?
Perhaps if Mr. Condor to pull up the floor plan, there's one on the upper level and one on the first.
Yeah, there are 2 on there.
Okay. I'm just curious. They didn't see it on the first level.
It's hard to, it's a stack, so it doesn't look.
Stack, yeah.
Because it's stacked, so it doesn't look no number.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Nope. We'll open to the public for questions about his testimony, and then we will reopen to the public for statements and anything else that comes our way. Yes, sir.
Question for the gentleman from Beacon. I thought I heard you say something about the stairs are unchanged.
I said the setback of the stairs is unchanged. The stairs will be extended to the rear of the property at the same setback that the stairs to the front of the property currently exist.
Anyone else? If not, you're off the hook.
Thank you very much. Good to be back.
Any discussion from the board before we open to the public? Not? Anyone in the public have a statement or a question about any of the testimony?
There's nobody else with their hand up.
Welcome back, John.
Hey, We have codes on the book.
John, can you just come up?
We have codes on the book, zoning codes, and regulations for a reason. They're not there so that people can come and ask for variances. Variances is sometimes requested for hardships, okay? Doing things like installing a secondary set of stairs to go into the backyard to save you from walking around the front, walking an extra 40 feet to the backyard. Get it? And I understand what the gentleman from Beacon said. They're not asking for more of an exception, but the exception was given on the basis of the stairs going from the property. It was the only external access. Now, for convenience, a secondary set of stairs is being added.
If I can just.
Hold on. This is just kind of.
Okay, secondary set of stairs being added. Okay, next thing, many people have put stairs inside their garages to gain access to the above floor. That's always a good option. Or if they want to really come downstairs, they can come down from the garage and go out the back door. There's a back door on there. The second set of stairs, again, they got a variance for the front set of stairs, and I'm hearing that we have a variance for the whole thing. They don't have a variance for the whole thing. They got a variance specifically for that landing and that set of steps. They didn't get a variance for a roof because they put a temporary structure up, and that's okay. The permanent structure, they don't have variance for. So I'd like you to consider that. The next thing is I did offer, and it was a sincere offer, to host anyone that would like to come and get a view from inside the house. I was very happy that Lance, again, it wasn't my property, you were on the neighbor's property. But to understand what we're talking about here, talking about looking out a window and seeing a wall that didn't exist before, straight up. Cranking out your awning window and coming within a few inches or a foot of hitting this roof. That's how close we are. You need to witness it. Mr. Cunningham, Chairman Cunningham, got a good view from the outside. I invite you to come on the inside, perhaps before you render an opinion. Okay? And if you say, hey, look, I'd like to live in this house with this wall in front of me, that's fine. So the stairs, the other thing is the roof deck. While the presentation said that the roof deck needs to go all the way out to the street, there's no reason why the railing couldn't be set back. So that the roof deck, where people occupy, is within the variance. I don't understand why there has to be a architectural roof in front of the house. You know, everything, when I'm sitting on my desk, everything that projects out, whether it's a roof or it's a deck, again, is an obstruction. And I understand I'm not guaranteed a view, but I am guaranteed a view if it doesn't violate the zoning. If it does violate the zoning. The roof's a permanent structure, it's now coming out, whatever it's 18 inches or 2 feet, whatever it is, beyond what's required. So my points really are, this roof deck is going out too far. The set of stairs is a pure convenience unless there's another reason for the set of stairs going into the backyard. And I really would encourage somebody, if they'd like to, come visit me, take you through the house, you can look out the windows and you can see firsthand what we're talking about. Building houses closer to each other, I don't think we should be doing that. From the perspective of we need to have a little fresh air, we need to have a little space between neighbors. I don't live in a townhouse. If I want to buy a townhouse, I would build a townhouse. I didn't buy a townhouse. Okay? There was a statement made about the neighborhood and about how this house is similar in nature to the neighborhood. This house is wider than virtually all the houses. Any house that is built long ways into the property, this house is wider. This house has which is nice, this house has they call it a 4-car garage, you can probably park 6 cars in here. That house occupies most of the property. Almost every house on the street is biased to the west. When I say biased towards the west, I mean they start their wall on the west property line and they leave room on the right side for things like vehicles to be parked in there. Most of the houses have a driveway alongside. That house, whoever decided to do it, they decided to make the house wider, no need for a driveway, and then they're adding staircases and roofs and things of that nature. So It is not really reflective of what's in it. It's wider, it doesn't have space on the side. Most houses have space on the side for cars to pull in and out. So I don't agree with the fact that it is representative. And as I mentioned earlier, most of the homes, when you look down the street, at least when I look down the street, I can see through their porches down the street. When I look to my west, I see a wall, and I'm gonna see a bigger wall. So again, the offer's open for a visit. If you want to postpone the decision tonight until you actually see it, I'm all for it. If not, it's your judgment. Thank you very much for your time and hearing me out. I do appreciate it.
Thank you
very much.
May I ask you?
Anyone else in the public have a statement? If not, the public portion is now closed.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Okay, but public was closed before they go to deliberation, want to do a closing statement, or if there's any, for public?
Mr. Chair, just real briefly, the board has heard detailed testimony both from the architect and the planner. Certainly, the proposed addition and renovation is a thoughtful exercise. The variances that are being sought are more than supported by applicable law as C variances. You heard testimony with regard to the proposed home being in keeping with the neighborhood. And so, and here's the proposed home. I think this is the gentleman who's speaking, his home here. And we can argue about whose home is more in keeping with the neighborhood and whose is not. But we're not going to do that. But my only point is that this is not, we comply with building coverage, we comply with lot coverage. We're not getting any closer to property lines than the structure that exists today. We're nowhere near as close, frankly, as the neighbor's property. And so we think it's a good plan, a thoughtful plan, and the board hopefully will take into consideration all of the expert testimony and planning that has gone into the application.
Thank you. I think the public portion is closed. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, discussion?
I wanted to ask Anthony a question. Good?
Good.
You had, I understand the front of the house is not conforming, the front setback hasn't changed at all.
Yeah, it's not.
And you testified that the 18-inch decorative roof coming off the front of the house doesn't count in the variance because it's the 18-inch roof, the front wall of the house is the 3.9, so you don't need variance for that 18-inch roof.
Yes.
Is there something that you could do decorative that would allow you to not have that 18-inch roof protruding out?
Yes, we could do some kind of trim or something. I always hesitant to offer stuff like that without speaking to the owner, but.
No, that's what I'm saying, you can discuss it. I take the neighbors' concerns seriously into my decisions on the board.
Sure.
And John has quite a few. The one that seems to be easiest to get an agreement with John with is to remove that front roof.
Just remove it entirely?
Yeah, just do a trim board or something. Anthony would know what to do with it. Anthony's testimony was that he has that there to break up the front of the house.
Yeah.
I said, I did insets in my house inside and I have columns up there. For the same thing, so you don't get a cereal box look going straight up.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying, if there's something that you could, and I know Anthony's a talented architect, so maybe he could come up with something that would have the same decorative effect, but not protrude 18 inches out from the building.
Yeah, so something less than the 18 inches.
I could make it more, if I make the overhang reduce too much, it's gonna look weird, it's just gonna be this.
No, instead of an overhang.
So I think with a decorative board, Stephen's talking about just getting rid of the overhang together and
putting
some kind of trim or something.
The other thought
Some type of
was,
decorative trim that would.
I think I can make it
Decorative trim.
I'd like to see you leave the roof up there. We need to break up on the front wall. We don't need straight walls for the story.
I would agree.
the other thought was too, is that we're doing the Juliet balcony above it. And so that's gonna come out a little bit, and so it sort of looked a little bit nicer aesthetically to be resting on the roof as it comes out, as opposed to having the Juliet balcony just kind of, I mean, do you know what I mean?
Well, Julia balcony would protrude more.
No, well, so there is a Juliet balcony on the front that is, I don't know, maybe it would come out 4 inches, but it just, if you went straight down below it, it would be, I don't know. So I think aesthetically, we were trying to come up with something where the Juliet balcony came out and then the roof came down a little bit this way, as opposed to,
I just saw that by making that front flush and not coming out 18 inches, it was a good, you know, way to get John's considerations. I think John's concerns.
The Juliet balcony would have to come out 12 inches anyway to start.
Yeah.
What are you gaining? Nothing. You're gaining nothing, Steve.
No, Juliet balcony, that wasn't my idea.
Anthony, if I can make a comment, then I do agree with the view that a flat surface will be very unattractive. It may seem nice because it does protrude it at first, but when you build it, it will not be attractive flat. So whatever the decision is, I think some architectural characteristic that breaks it up is going to be important. The second thing is in the bottom right rendering, there was a discussion around how far out the railing went to the front of the house, bottom right rendering, right? So we're looking, up at the roof, that front deck.
Right here.
Is there any issue with setting that back 18 inches?
Yes, because this not only is a roof deck, it's actually a roof.
I think he's just talking about
Just the railing. Just the railing.
Setting the railing.
There's,
I don't know.
there's no reason, nothing architectural that prevents us from doing that.
The only reason I raise it is two points. Number one, John made a comment about, could you move that back, I think, to some extent. The other thing is when you look at it from the street, it's not as obvious anymore. And the building does not look quite as high if the railing is set back a little bit.
I don't think setting it back a foot's gonna make it look bad. I think that's fine. We're talking about just the railing.
And if you wanted to pick a number, the number is what it would take to get it back in compliance with the setback, which I think was about 1.5 feet.
I think it's 1.2 or something like that.
That's why I just mentioned 8 feet.
3.8.
I think that's accommodating of what John was concerned about, and it doesn't take much away from the hall.
Yeah, if it's okay. I think if it's okay.
1.2 feet.
1.2 feet, I mean, it's not as obvious when you look at it from the street. It doesn't look as tall anymore. I think John expressed a concern around that. And
I think it'd be fine. I think it just looks like a cornice. It's, you know, fine. I think it's okay.
I mean, that's just my opinion.
Put some gargoyles on.
Yeah, it could be done.
Okay.
And that seems agreeable to you?
Yes, it does, Mr. Chairman.
If I may, just to maybe give a little more icing on the cake. I don't think it'd be a problem to make this a 1 foot overhang rather than an 18-inch overhang. I think it'd still look good, but it's whatever. Just putting it.
Well, you have to tell us that. We don't have the choice. All we can do is say yes or no.
Flat is not designed.
Well, I think the 18 inches is better, so.
Flat.
for a lot of reasons, what it's reading.
Right.
Well,
Right.
I think keep the little overhang, but move the
Remove the rail.
a little bit.
Remove the rail.
And then
Remove the rail.
that's a
Okay.
reasonable compromise.
Agreed.
I mean, after Sandy and everybody had to raise their houses, we have to learn how to accept that there is change going on. It isn't the same way when it was a fishing village back in the 1800s, or whenever that this place started. I mean, this is the new society. People need square footage to live in. They need a comfortable house to live in. And John, with no disrespect, your house looks quite big to me. I think this is something we're gonna have to accept for the future. This is Sea Road downtown.
I think we're almost done.
I hope so.
Yeah, these things are pretty big already.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this application with the moving back the railing on the third floor, whatever's necessary.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as we're done with our discussions, board members, everybody good? Dave just made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Peggy. We have a roll call, please.
Councilor Bieber?
Yes.
Ms. Bills?
Yes.
Mr. Cashmore?
Yes.
Chairman Cunningham?
Yes.
Mr. Julio?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Paseo?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Mr. Lexi? Yes. Mr. Zelina?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Best of luck. John, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
I am a good one. You have no idea, Dave. You almost did.
Anything else? Any other business?
For any other business before the board?
I just like to know, can we have meetings in We do have some problems on the agenda. I'm just asking for the agenda, that's everyone. There's 2 hours. Anything to do, or? You don't know. It's fine, you don't know about the variance, I decided.
Is there roof I think she's gonna want
I can take it off
for a second.
but no, I can email you some size.
No other business before the board?
I'll make a motion to
Adjourn.
I think that's.
adjourn.
Meeting is adjourned.